All right, this is a new SEC podcast. You've tuned in to one of the best previews coming to you right now on the internet. We're talking about Georgia taking on Alabama, one of the best matchups of last season. Could be one of the best games of this season. Can't wait. I'll be there in Athens for this game. Georgia's favored 2.5, over under 53.5. Hunter, what are we thinking about this game?
Georgia favored by 2.5 against Alabama. We heard this story. We heard this story last year. Alabama took care of business as underdogs. That was a little different, though. It was in Bryant-Denny. It was in Alabama. Now you got to go to Athens, where Georgia is just about as dominant as any team could possibly be at home. I mean, killing it at home. And you're playing against an Alabama team who's really been struggling on the road. I think 5 of the 6 last road games they've lost. DeBoer has not performed well on the road. That's playing in Georgia's favor. But right now, Georgia, one of the only teams in the country that has their number has been Alabama as of late since Kirby Smart's tenure there. So this is painted to be a good game. I don't think it swings more than a few points in either direction, no matter what.
Yeah, it feels like ages ago in the Kalen DeBoer tenure that he was able to beat Kirby Smart, because I think at that time everything was flowing for them. We knew what happened the following week, but at that time it felt like the Alabama dynasty was going to continue to hum like it always has. And there's another opportunity for this season for Alabama to show that they are, I guess, for all intents and purposes, back, right? Ty Simpson getting a little bit of mention from Kirby Smart, saying he's one of the hottest quarterbacks right now in the SEC. That's a lot coming from Kirby Smart, and we can't talk about this game without talking about what Ty Simpson's been able to do against Wisconsin and against the teams he's played post Florida State.
Yeah, and since Florida State, Alabama's played about as perfect football as you can. You can't ignore the Florida State game, but you can look at it and say it was a turning point for this team, a wake-up call, however you want to phrase it. They've played just about as perfect football. Now it was against ULM, it was against Wisconsin. But I don't want to hear about level of competition, because Georgia had Austin Peay at home, and they didn't look necessarily convincing in that game. So, you can only play the guy in front of you, and Alabama's done a good job at that. I think that right now, looking at what worked for Florida State, what didn't work for the other teams, Georgia needs to up their pass rush a little bit if they want to win this game. They haven't been able to bring that same level of heat that Georgia's had over the past few seasons. And now the one way to throw Ty Simpson off his game is to attack potentially some weak spots in the Alabama O-line. You've had 2 weeks to plan for it. That's going to be a key for Georgia is how they improve the pass rush on the season so far.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that Georgia's always done really well. The linebacker play has looked pretty impressive thus far this season, and it's such a small sample size on both sides, right? Georgia played Marshall, Georgia played Austin Peay, they obviously played Tennessee. That was an anomaly of a game for them, right? They got down very early, not what you expect from a Kirby Smart defense. And for Georgia's offense, I think we saw more from Gunnar Stockton than people anticipated. He's got that, put the Batman coat on and make a play when it matters. Something that we didn't necessarily see from Carson Beck this past season when the moments presented themselves. And so I think it's going to be the kind of the black swan in this game is what can Gunnar Stockton do? And rushing wise for Georgia, how involved do you get Nate Frazier? When do you get Josh McCray involved? And kind of what does that 3-headed monster look like on the offensive rushing attack?
You feel a little bit more confident in Gunnar Stockton. You came into the season and he did have a good drive in the playoffs. You now have a game tying, winning, however you want to look at it, drive in the Tennessee game where he threw that great pass. You now know he's got a little bit of ice in the veins. He can bring some clutch. I talked about how I don't think the game had settled down for him yet. Now you're starting to see how he performs. And that was in a hostile environment in Knoxville. So now you're looking at this game. I do think that the offense is starting to find their rhythm. Alabama's defense also hasn't generated the pass rush that they wanted to as well. But both these two quarterbacks susceptible to pressure, it's critical. I think Georgia's underutilizing some really talented wide receivers. So I want to see that in this game from Georgia if they look to win.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be something that you're going to want to see from Georgia. You got Zachariah Branch. We talk about Colby Young all the time. I don't think we've really seen a lot of Noah Thomas this year either for Georgia. But Zachariah has kind of been the main guy for that team. On the other side, we expected to see more from Ryan Williams, but Jeremy Bernard's kind of been the main guy for them. Just I think from a leadership perspective and energy, kind of brand from that Saban era, 3 touchdowns on the season for him. I'm excited to see that matchup with him versus Dalen Everett from Georgia.
Yeah, there's going to be some good matchups in this one. Like looking at the weapons, Ryan Williams now really not wide receiver 1. It's Jeremy Bernard. Him and Ty Simpson have built such a good chemistry. Great after the catch. These Alabama receivers and tight ends have done a great job of getting themselves open in space to continue to make plays after the catch. And you got Jam Miller back this week. Jam Miller expected to play, running back out at Alabama, coming off the collarbone injury. He's going to be playing. Tim Keenan on the D-line is going to be a game time decision. We're recording here on Monday. So I think Alabama right now is bringing a lot of weapons into this game. Saw Ryan Williams against Georgia last year. One of the best plays of the season.
One of the best plays of the season, definitely makes a ton of highlight clips. And I think the return of Jam Miller is going to bring a component to this Alabama offense that we haven't really seen a ton this season, which is rushing the football, which is usually the brand of Alabama. They always are a run-heavy school. Any final thoughts when you think about what Georgia needs to do? Is this going to be another offensive shootout like we saw last year? Do we see some stalled drives in the first half of the game? Because we got 2 quarterbacks first year starting technically. So
I think we see some consistent drives. I think we see things maybe fizzle out at the 50. A couple 4th down conversions, they either click or don't. I think we see some teams potentially nickel and diming their way down the field. Some keys for Alabama. Ty Simpson, you just got to let him settle into the offense. He hits this sort of flow state as he gets going where everything's going right for him. Nickel and drive, the drives look effortless, a good blend of plays. If you're an O-line, if you're the receivers, help him settle into that state. Now, on the flip side for Georgia, right now their biggest kryptonite defensively is time. They're letting the quarterback get way too much time in the pocket. They're putting their defensive backs in compromising positions. We saw it against Tennessee with Chris Brazzell. They're not generating effective pass rush, and they're asking too much of their DBs because of it. If you're Georgia, you can't let as much time happen because you can't let a guy like Ty Simpson get hot. So that's where I see this game going. I'm excited for this one.
I'm really excited for it as well. And I completely agree with you when it comes to the pass rush for Georgia and what that means for Ty Simpson. And I think that's where Kirby Smart's probably going to be game planning. Like, how do you disrupt a quarterback's flow, create pressure? Kirby Smart is a defensive guy. We all know this. He's going to be trying to scheme on how to create pressure, run some stunts, make it harder for Ty to get into that flow. On the other side, for Georgia's offense, they're going to run the football right now. And I'm sure a lot of these stats are based upon against Florida State, but right now Alabama's giving up 138 yards per game on the ground. So they're going to try to run the football. They being Georgia, it's at home. I mean, what a spot for Ty to have to kind of start a season, right? Going into Doak Campbell, going into Sanford Stadium and trying to get a win. It's a big ask. And so I like Georgia in this game. I'm going to say 28-21. I think it's a little bit lower scoring than last year. And I think that the home crowd, the rushing attack for Georgia, they find a way to kind of control Ty Simpson. He'll still have a good game, but I like the Dogs in this one.
Okay, I'm going to flip it. I think it is going to be low scoring. I like Alabama 27-20 behind 2 touchdowns from Jeremy Bernard, potentially 1 from Jam Miller. I like Alabama in this one. I think that they keep the train going that they've picked up after that mistake. I don't like them to drop too early, 2 games early in the season. But, let us know what you guys think. Randall, you're going to be there at the game, so I'm sure we'll hear about how the energy is in the stadium. If you're an Alabama fan, Georgia fan, SEC fan, let us know your score predictions for this game. One of the biggest ones of the year. Surprise game day is not going there. I get the whole scheduling thing and who they're going to see. It is what it is. Big Ten, whatever. Be sure to like, subscribe for more SEC content. We're going to bring you previews, recaps, all of your SEC content every week. As always, I'm Hunter Ziesman, joined by Randall Ledet Jr. We are the new SEC podcast, and we will catch you in the next one.